We know that if you're watching this video, you may have had a different idea of how you wanted your love life to be at the current age that you are. And the reality just hasn't met your expectations. Whether you have been in long-term relationships that have ended, or you've gone through heartbreak, or you've been avoiding dating because you've been focusing on your career, and now you're in your 30s and you're realizing that you want a family, you want a partner, but the dating scene is just tough. So this video is really to help you through that process and understand what mistakes you might be making and how to fix those so you actually can fall in love in your 30s.
And if you don't know, I'm Matt.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are a married couple who work as dating and relationship coaches. And after working with thousands of women, helping them to go from single to being in a relationship, we've learned what is it that works and what is it that doesn't.
So let's talk about the problem first, and then we'll get to the solutions. So the problem with dating in your 30s is that there can be a lot of pressure. Internal pressure, but also external pressure, right? The internal pressures of desiring to have kids and being aware of your age, wanting to find a good man, but feeling that there's scarcity, right? A lot of men are married, or the type of men you want aren't available. And then there can be a fear that as you get older, you also get less attracted to the type of men that you desire. And in the culture that we live in, as women, we're so conditioned to focus on our career and be successful that oftentimes that's what our 20s were dedicated to. So many women, and I can include myself in this, towards our later 20s, have the realization of wanting love, wanting kids, wanting marriage. And then you're stuck in this issue of having your relationship. And then all of a sudden, this pressure builds up from all these issues that I already stated.
And then there are the external pressures. Maybe you're at a family function and your family are asking you, like, when are you going to settle down? When are you going to have kids? And that can create this sense of shame within you, or reveal the shame that is already there from this implied idea that there is something wrong with where you currently are in your life right now.
We've had so many women come to us for coaching who are confused because they open up Instagram or TikTok and they see all this conflicting advice about dating and relationships, right? Some people are saying raise your standards and don't settle. And then others are saying your standards are too high. You need to be realistic. So whose advice do you take? And really the stance that we take is that it's great to find a balance between the two, where you're not settling and you're getting what you want and you're being realistic. So let's dive into the solutions that we have for you for dating in your 30s and how to call in a relationship that you desire.
So in this video, there are 5 things that we're going to be breaking down, starting off with number 1.
Number 1 is to get clear on your non-negotiables while also being flexible with your preferences. So inside our course for single women, we teach them how to get clear on 9 non-negotiables. So these are the things that you do not settle on. Things like values and where you are in your life. If you both want kids, there's many different aspects we talk about, from compatibility and chemistry and more. So non-negotiables are incredibly important, and we coach them to get clear on their top 9. And then anything outside of those 9 are considered your preferences. So what this means is that maybe they're willing to go on a date with someone that they might not have normally in the past. And I just want to give you an example of a woman who did this and it worked out really well for her. So one of our clients, she decided to take on the homework of dating outside of her preferences. And she actually went on a date with a man who she would have never gone on a date with in the past because he was bald, right? And she had a preference, and she thought that a man having hair or a certain type of hair equaled being attracted to him. But because we gave her the homework, and she was resistant to taking on the homework at first, but she took it on, and she went on a date with this man and found herself so surprisingly attracted to him. They ended up continuing to date, getting into a relationship, and they are engaged now. So this is just one example of so many of a woman being willing to date outside her preferences and actually meeting her dream man. So that's number 1.
Number 2 is that it is a numbers game. So what we mean by this is that a lot of the time when women are having this association to the dating market, that it's terrible. And at the same time, if you look at over the last 3 to 5 years, or however long you've been single, look at how many men you have actually been on a date on. And for some of you, it's going to be maybe 10. For some of you, it's going to be maybe 7. For some of you, it's going to be a little bit more, and that's totally okay. And we want you to consider that small number of men doesn't determine how the thousands, hundreds of thousands of men are around you. So the way that we like to teach it is that finding your dream man, it is a numbers game. Yes, you get to do your work. Yes, you get to have your internal GPS system around your non-negotiables to determine who it is that you select as a partner. And at the same time, it is a numbers game. If you go on 1,000 dates, out of those 1,000, there are going to be a lot of amazing men in there. So it's kind of like this. Let's say that you go to a restaurant and you have a terrible experience. That doesn't mean that every single restaurant is going to be the same way as that one restaurant experience. And the same thing happens when women tend to have a terrible experience with a man, or multiple experiences. those terrible experiences doesn't mean that all men are going to be that way. So know that if you want to find a good restaurant, it is a numbers game. If you go to 1,000 restaurants, there's going to be a restaurant out of that 1,000 that you're going to love, right? And the same thing happens when you are dating. So that is number 2.
Number 3 is to create openings. So sometimes when women are dating and they want to be in their feminine energy, they misunderstand what that actually means. And they think that that means that the man's supposed to do all the work, the man's supposed to come up to you, the man's supposed to fully pursue you. And there is truth in that, but there's an important nuance that is missing, that when women miss this piece, then they also tend to block themselves off from connections with men that they might have had otherwise. So that's where we get to number 3, which is to create openings. So if you want a man to pursue you, you get to create the opening that he can respond to. So something we talk about with masculine and feminine energy is that the feminine invites and attracts, and the masculine guides and leads. So if we look at the feminine inviting and attracting, that's basically all an opening is. You're inviting him into maybe a conversation or to ask you on a date. So how you can create an opening really simply can be just to make eye contact with a guy that you find cute, who you'd like to approach you, or even starting a conversation. So for example, when I was dating before I met Matt, I was in the practice of creating openings. And so when I came across Matt's Instagram profile, I actually ended up messaging him first because I was intentionally creating an opening. I wasn't asking him on a date. I wasn't, being super forward. Actually, all I said was just like, hi, I love the work that you're doing. I see we're in the same city. And then I let him take it from there. And he actually ended up asking me on a date. So that opening is a great example of how I just invited him into a conversation and then he responded and pursued me.
Yeah. And from the perspective of in-person creating openings, I want you to take into consideration how challenging it can be for a man to walk up to another woman, because there is the rejection that could happen. There is also, if you are with your friends and other women, he has to not only go up to you, but also potentially being rejected, not just by you, but also being seen by all the people that you're around. So it's the smile, like really get the context around how important that actually is, because that allows you to show him that, hey, I'm open to being approached. Please come up and say hello to me, right?
So an opening can be eye contact, it can be a smile, it can be saying hello, it can even be giving a man a compliment or starting a conversation, right? Asking a man's opinion, asking for his help with something. So those are some examples of how you can create an opening.
Number 4 is to understand what men desire in a woman. When we're working with women, we tend to see patterns of what women generally want in a man that has them want to have commitment with a man.
So some examples of that is that he has integrity, that she feels safe around him, that she feels protected, provided for, things like that.
And just like women tend to have their preferences of what they want, men tend to have their preferences of what they want in a woman. So understanding what is it that men tend to want that has them want to commit to a woman can mean a difference between being in a relationship in your 30s and then not being in a relationship in your 30s. So let me break it down. So number 1 is ease. So what does this mean? The best thing about the relationship with Kelly is that I never have to guess if something is wrong. She is constantly and always just speaks up if there ever is something going on for her. So I never have to guess if there is anything that she's holding in. She will share that with me. And you doing that with a man can mean the difference, right? Because a lot of men tend to have these complaints around, I just don't know what's going on. I feel like I have to solve a puzzle. So you doing that, allowing yourself to openly express what is it that's showing up for you in a specific way that we love to teach. That's another whole other video. But being able to share what are your needs, what are your boundaries, what's going on for you, if there's something that's bothering you, being able to bring that up allows the relationship to feel easy for him.
Right, and not in a combative way, but in a feminine, soft-hearted, personally responsible way, which is exactly what we teach.
And number 1 is linked to number 2, which is men love to win. You see it in sports, you see it in everyday life, they love to win. So understanding that you want to be able to get him to win with you. The way that you do that is by giving him the blueprint around your needs. So this is exactly what it is that I need, and this is how much I need it, and this is also the way that I love to receive it. So for example, when Kelly and I first started dating, we went through the different love languages. If you don't know what they are, I won't go into every single one, but one of them is quality time. Quality time means something completely different to what is quality time for Kelly. So we had a conversation about that. For me, I can be sitting down watching a movie with her and I feel like that's quality time because it reminds me of me growing up with my family, right? But then for Kelly, that isn't quality time. Quality time means for her, one of the ways is to be able to sit down, have a conversation, and that's quality time for her. So now that I understood that, I now knew how I could win with her.
And it's important to note that men feel like they're winning with you when you express appreciation for specific things that they've done, right? So when a man is showing up in a way that you love or you appreciate, make sure to say that out loud.
The third thing is status. Whether we want to go over it or not, men care about status. So this isn't so much about what to do, it's more about what not to do that we see that has a man not want to commit. So if you were constantly criticizing him, if you were constantly comparing him, all of those behaviors has a very big impact around whether he wants to spend the rest of his life with you or not. Because if he, in his mind, the dating stage is like a trailer to the rest of the relationship. So if in the dating stage, he's being criticized, he's being compared, then in his mind, he's like, this is something that I do not want for the rest of my life. I'm out. And especially, the reason why we say status is because, especially if you are in public, right? If you are with him and in front of other people, the way that you speak about him, by belittling him, by making even jokes about him, that has him look bad in the eyes of others. So for him, that plays a very big impact on how he feels towards you. And the fourth thing is visual. So whether you like it or not, men are visual creatures, right? So what we mean by this is that we're not here to say this is how you should look. What we are here to remind you of is being able to take care of your physical appearance has a very big impact on whether a man will want to commit to you or not.
And also, I think being willing to dress in a more feminine way, right? And take what you like and leave the rest here. But what I found is men love like a floral dress, a summer dress. I think that really can pull especially masculine men in and really desire to connect with you and see that part of you and be attracted to it.
So that is number 4. So we understand that this can be triggering for a lot of people. And at the same time, it's important to know this is what men actually look for.
So those 4 things that we just went over are understanding what men desire in a woman that makes him want to commit, okay? And number 5 is to stop looking for Prince Charming and to start looking for a good man. I think that so many women can be really wrapped up on the specifics and what he's gonna look like and how much money he's gonna make and what his job is, and they're really building up this fantasy of Prince Charming so that no man ever matches their criteria. And all that those women are doing are just cutting themselves off from love. And so I'd really suggest looking for yourself if that's been something you're doing. And instead of looking for Prince Charming, look for a good man, because there are so many good men around. And oftentimes if we think we've even found like a Prince Charming in real life, he's probably the type of man who may be unavailable, who may be dating a bunch of women. And those are the exact men that women actually complain about. But really, women need to take personal responsibility for where they are just trying to date Prince Charming instead of just looking for a solid, grounded, honest, good man.
And we have a training that goes way deeper into this. It's 5 secrets to attract your dream partner. We'll leave a link down below, so go ahead and check it out. Subscribe if you haven't already. Let us know what the biggest takeaway from this was.
And we'll see you in the next video.